We've been fortunate to have a lot of the state champion, involved coaches, players, whatnot, for some of the spring sports on the show. And today we're treated to another. We have Green Canyon Lacrosse. We have about like a third of the team from the looks of it. We have head coach Troy Oldham. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Okay, and then Conner Dockery and Peyton Johnson, right? Okay. I had to write those down, and I was still not sure I said those right. But thanks for coming on the show. We're glad to have you.
Thanks. Yeah, hey, we're excited to be here. It's we were just talking outside. It's kind of in the afterglow of a really crazy season and a great finish. And it's kind of nice to be able to come back and kind of go down memory lane and remember how awesome the season was and to be able to share it with the Valley.
Well, so it's been a spring of championships at Green Canyon High School. I mean, you got the girls soccer took care of business. You guys win, but early on it was definitely the season is in doubt. I mean, you guys, it's a rough start for you guys. Before we get into the record and maybe why things were a little bit rough early on, we talked to Bear River softball coach Calvin Bingham just last Friday. And it was a crazy spring for a lot of sports to get going because of all the snow. 2020, athletes got robbed of their spring sport because of COVID. This year, not they get robbed, but it was definitely delayed and affected by the weather. Now, lacrosse is an outdoor sport, and that's a sport that's pretty much going to play no matter what.
Yep.
But it can still be difficult to find a field to get on to get your team put together and practice and get ready for the season. What was that like for you guys this year?
Well, yeah, we're really fortunate in that our school is right next to the Hansen family complex, right? And so we were able to get some turf time there, but not a lot. I mean, it's 5:30 starts. It's then run over to school at 7 o'clock. But we grabbed as much turf time as we could. But we also played a lot of games and practices in snow and sleet and rain, and so we saw all the different conditions. And it is kind of tough, especially when we start playing teams from Utah County, from Salt Lake, where it's a little warmer and they don't have the same snow issues. So we did get a slow start, not as bad as baseball and softball, where you have to have special field conditions, where we're able to play on turf, and we prefer to play on turf. We felt like we were able to get at least some good time. We also went down to California, took the team down and played in a big tournament there, got that done in January, and so we felt like we started this season with enough practice time, enough time together to at least feel like we could put together a pretty good season.
So let's kind of talk about that start to the season, and maybe, Troy, maybe some of the players can answer this, but obviously rough start, 0-5, 2-7, and I guess at that point, like, is the feeling positive knowing that, you played a pretty tough schedule? Like, what's the feeling like, because obviously the end goal is the championship at the beginning of the season, but you start a season 2-7, you're like, I don't know, can we actually do this? Like, do those thoughts kind of creep into your head?
Oh yeah, and believe me, I second guess my great scheduling prowess as we were going through the season. We had not only did we schedule tough teams, we did it in our own tournament. So we invited, it was an invitational. We invited the top of the state in 5 and 6A to come and play, and we took the hardest schedule without question. And they weren't blowouts, right? But we did come away with straight losses in the tournament, and then went right into a game with Corner Canyon, who's traditionally been the 6A champ, and I think they won the 6A title more than any other team, probably in the West. Last year they were ranked in the top 20 in the nation, and we took them on and played them, and we didn't get a win there either. And so as you start going into season, you're like, wow, did we really kind of rob our guys of some wins? But we did have a lot of faith in this group. I had 18 seniors. I had a lot of experience from that state championship team from last year that had already stepped forward as juniors as leaders in the team, and that's these guys that are here right now. And so we just had to keep preaching the gospel of, hey, we are a great team. You guys are great players. We're going to get our time, and take the adversity and make it fuel what your eventual goal is. And these guys filled out a form. In fact, I've got it in my backpack, the goal that we put in the safe, and say we're not going to talk about it until we get to postseason. But they wanted the state championship again. They had that taste and they wanted it. So we were second guessing our scheduling, but I think when these guys peaked was when they had to peak, and they did a great job of it.
So kind of pass that on, I guess, either the Connor or Peyton. I guess when you're having those conversations, you're 0-5, and coach is trying to, rally the team. Like, how hard is it to buy into that? Because there's only so many L's you can take before you just lose confidence in yourself. Like, how do you try and buy into that when there's no results really to show for all that?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you lose a lot of games early on, it's rough. You start to lose confidence. But we kind of just we talked about it all year, how we wanted to play the best teams to see where we really stood up in the state, and we saw that level early on and saw that we weren't matching up to some of the better teams. So I think it was good for us in the way that we saw what level we needed to be to by the end of the season. And even though we lost early on, it helped us in the long run for sure.
So what was that transition like to start getting some momentum going and starting to get that taste of, okay, we've been through a tough ringer here, but we're coming together as a team? Either one of you can jump on that.
The big thing was just kind of getting buy-in from everybody else on the team. Like, I've been playing lacrosse for a long time, and I've always been bought into the sport. And me and Connor, being some of the captains of the team, needed to get everybody else to follow along with us, which at the start was difficult. But then at the right time, everybody bought in at the right time. We all working after practices, and we became a lot closer as like brothers and as teammates, which I think helped just as much with our lacrosse skill as it did off the field. So,
talk with Green Canyon lacrosse head coach Troy Oldham, and also Conner Dockery, Peyton Johnson. So kind of going into the rest of the season, things start to look better. Didn't win region, but you guys obviously playing a little better. Going into the playoffs, you beat the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and obviously you faced Skyview in the championship game. That was a team you lost to twice in the regular season. You managed to beat them in the title game. Like, what was that kind of like? Do you feel like that maybe comes full circle as far as the narrative of struggling early on, but having things pay off in the title game?
Losing to Skyview was a very humbling experience. I mean, losing to any team sucks, but when it's your rivals, it stings a little bit more. So that just made me want to work 10 times harder, and I think it made a lot of the players on the team want to work 10 times harder to achieve that goal, to see where we needed to get at to beat that team later in the postseason. And I think it helped a ton that losing those games, I think it kind of hit everybody that everyone needed to get better if we wanted to win state, which was our main goal the whole season. Coaches preached it, players preached it. So seeing that level that we needed to get to helped a ton.
So, Connor, let me ask you. This was Coach Oldham mentioned that a lot of this team's success this year was built upon a lot of juniors that were part of a championship-level team last year. It's a rough start, but you're able to turn things around. You come into the championship game as an underdog again against Skyview again. So what was that like, getting one more dub over Skyview in the championship, even as the underdog one more time?
I think just going into the playoffs in general, we had a lot more confidence than I think teams thought, because, I mean, last year when we won the state championship, we lost to Skyview twice in the regular season. Like, we weren't the 1 seed, but this year the same thing. We lose to Skyview twice, but we also lose to Ridgeline twice. Teams, I mean, we fall to the 6th seed. Teams probably aren't thinking that much about us, but I feel like in our team we all kind of had that confidence that, I mean, we did it last year. Why can't we do it this year? Like, it's not much different.
So, Troy, I'll ask you, I guess, also talking about going into the playoffs. I mean, sometimes you talk about teams that get to the championship game, it's like, oh, they had an easy path because maybe a certain team upset, so maybe you're playing like an 8 seed in the semifinal. But that was not you guys. You beat the 3 seed, 2 seed, and the 1 seed basically in order. As you guys had a very tough path to the championship, I guess, what did you see in your team that you were able to overcome kind of a murderer's row playoff bracket?
Yeah, and I think these guys have touched on it pretty well. It was lacrosse is an interesting sport, right? Like, there's just so much the coach is doing. Like, you see football coaches, they send in the plays. Basketball, it's right there. They can stop it. These guys see more stuff on the field than we ever see as coaches. So we spend a lot of time in practice drilling and focusing on fundamentals. Where it really kicks in, where I think these guys get all the credit for where we got to, is like Peyton said, they would stay after and shoot. They would stay after and take shots. I think you took 500 shots a day for 2 or 3 weeks, right, as a goalie, just getting drilled, and not just by anybody, but by some of our coaches like Scott Bunker, who is a Brighton all-star that just he's got a rip and he can hit anywhere. And so these guys took it on themselves to say, okay, let's get our skills up, because if you look at the games we lost, and even to these big 5 and 6A teams, it came down to execution, drop passes, like missed opportunities, shots that maybe were like right at the goalie's chest instead of at a spot around the goal. And these guys fixed that. They individually and as a team, they worked on it. And as a coach, we're directing it and giving them that opportunities, but these guys picked it up. And that's where I think the win was that much more satisfying. And that's honestly why I brought these two guys here, and I could fill the whole room if that was possible. But they won the state championship. We as coaches, in fact, they can attest to this. We backed off probably a week out of the preseason, and we put the leadership back on the shoulders of these guys and said, you've been there, you know what to do, you know where our deficiencies are, pick it up, and let's get everybody on board. And our practices were very consultative. Here's the 10 drills we want to do, here's what we want to focus on, what do you want to, what do you see that we need? And consultatively with those players, we did it. And so in my opinion, we peaked because these guys peaked as leaders and took that on, and I think that's why we won the state championship.
This was not only a unique year because of how you started, because of the weather, but also you had a semifinal game in which some players had a choice. Am I going to stick with my team, or am I going to walk across the rostrum in the spectrum with all of my peers? What was that like for you guys with graduation ceremonies going on and having to make that decision? Am I going to stay with my guys, do something a little bit unique on a field before a game, or go somewhere where family and friends are going to be there, where I'm going to have big graduation ceremony that's traditional? What was that like for you guys and your team to have something kind of thrown on, one more thing thrown on to you, as it's already been kind of a weird year for you?
Yeah, well, not to take anything away from graduating, but I feel like there was a general consensus around our team that all of us wanted to play. Like it was never really up in the air that most of the guys were going to come play, because lacrosse just meant a little bit more to us. And the administration did a really good job of still making sure we got a graduation. I mean, Dave Swenson got some of the people from the district to come, and we got our diplomas and got to take pictures before the game. So we still got to graduate, just not in a traditional way. But I mean, no better way to play. You get to play lacrosse, so it's better than regular graduation, in my opinion.
It's more exciting than my graduation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dave Swenson and also our administration at the school. They went all out. Phil Morris was down there. Missy Stewart, our AD, was down there. That takes a lot of high-powered leadership off the school to come down and be there for a semifinal game, but it meant a lot to the players, and they did a great job. As a coach, I was dying. You just don't want anything distracting, especially when we got 18 seniors that all have to graduate. I look across the field, and there's Coach Quiggle with his 3 graduates. I'm like, oh, man, this is just, where will their heads be? And they had the celebration, and as soon as they get those gowns off, they were out, and they were across the field. We've got this photo that one of the parents took and sent it to me, and watching these guys come on the field, their eyes were steely. They were just like focused. They'd had their fun. They got their graduation, but when the time came for them to get back on that field, they were 100% focused, and it was kind of a scary feeling being on the sideline going, man, these guys are locked and loaded, ready to go.
So ask you, Peyton, you were one of the graduating seniors, right?
Yes, sir.
It's like, what was that transition like? Ceremony before the game, and suddenly you got to play lacrosse, 5 minutes later, or something like that. Like, what was that transition like for you?
Well, being a goalie, you have a very strict routine. Like, you go out there, you warm up, you see shots from coaches and some players, and then you move right into, we call it 4-on-3s, where you're seeing shots from just players and seeing different looks there. So it kind of, at the start, I was kind of, am I still going to be able to run my routine? Am I still going to be able to perform to the level that I hold myself to? The coaches did a great job of being able to do half of that routine before the graduation, and then doing that other half at the end of the graduation. And I think having that little time afterwards to be able to work together as a team really, really helped us as a team calm our nerves and start focusing more on lacrosse rather than graduation.
So one of the other bummers is that you win the state championship, but school's out. So what did you guys do to celebrate, or is there still something in the works?
No championship pep rallies?
No, not really. We just try to keep everybody focused in. Like, there were parties that whole week, I remember, and we have some partiers on our team, and we just try to keep everybody focused on that main goal, that goal that we had for a long time ago that we had, like, instilled in ourselves as a team. And I think having that goal for such a long time made it easier for people to choose, lacrosse over a celebration and being able to, still stay focused in.
And one thing we're right in the middle of right now, and it is kind of fun, is we designed our state championship ring. That went out to everybody. We've kind of got the shirts going. The school has been really awesome about supporting us with stuff like that. But, yeah, we didn't get a prep rally. Although what we did do is the bus coming back, they were able to organize a police escort. They picked us up at the mouth of the canyon, brought them all the way in, and then had a bit of a celebration there at the school at, midnight? It was pretty late, right?
Late.
But and that was cool. These guys they sent me video because I had to go south. I had a family commitment I had to go to after the game, and they sang every Katy Perry song, I think, on the whole Spotify or whatever. They were singing. They were having a great time. So that's my only regret is I didn't get that bus ride back with these guys to celebrate with them. But it is kind of a weird thing, right? The last day of school was Thursday. But the cool thing was, you looked in that stand, and Zions Bank Stadium is a big venue. It really is. And it was packed. And we had our friends there. Our family was there. It was like school was in session. And with Skyview on the other side, because we're all on the same side, right, that stadium was rocking. They were there to support their fans. Our guys were there to support us. And at the end, the big celebration we had was really cool. Everybody came over to the bus. We got to cut up the net. We got to take pictures. And so our celebration was, we felt like our school was there, but it was about the team.
Kind of one more question, I guess. What you said kind of leads into this, where lacrosse has really grown as a sport, and we were talking about it a little bit before the show. And I was talking about, back when I was in high school, which wasn't all that long ago, but still, lacrosse wasn't really a thing. I mean, I went to Davis, you hear about lacrosse, but that was something that people did when they go to, Duke or something like that. They play it out east. And now, UHSA, it's a sanctioned sport. In Utah, some of the clubs were first starting up when I was in high school, and now it's, all over the place. It really seems like it's grown, especially here, and not just all of Utah.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you got teams that are breaking out. Like I mentioned, Corner Canyon, right, being in the top in the nation. Park City as well. They both played Cherry Creek, which is a team that's in the top 5 of the nation. They got beat, but only by a few points. And so in Utah, I think outside of mountain biking, just because so many kids can participate, it's the fastest growing team sport, and has been for the last probably 5 or 6 years. And so there's a lot of energy, a lot of younger kids coming up, excited about it. In fact, in the locker room, kind of a tradition we started last year is we had one of our alumni sent me kind of a encouragement to the players. We had one of our players who was hurt talk about what it meant for them to be here with them, even though they were hurt. And then we had this 11-year-old, lacrosse kid gave me a write-up from his dad just saying, man, you guys, you're my heroes. I love wearing the Green Canyon uniform, and go get them, go win state, because, I want to do that when I get older. And I think that shows the health of the sport. With Bryant was our region. Bryant Cannell, the head coach at Skyview, he was the coach of the year in our region. Great recognition for him. Coach Aaron Quiggle, who's over at Ridgeline, I have a lot of experience with him. He is actually my assistant when we won state at Skyview a few years ago. You just look at just the programs and how they're building. It's really cool. And yeah, I played at Utah State, but it was just my buddies were all Sigma News, and they talked me into coming and playing. And I played football, and it took me half a season just to figure out how the game was played. And then I fell in love with the sport and really have never left it. So,
by and large, right now, the 4A classification, it's a Region 11 sport. There's a few schools from Salt Lake area.
Correct. Yeah, Judge Memorial, Juan Diego,
Waterford.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a realignment,
Correct.
and there's going to be more teams in 4A now. What do you know about those schools that will be coming in, and how does that affect the sport of lacrosse?
I think it just makes it better. Two things will happen next year. We'll go from a small 4A to a compatible 4A to 5A and 6A. So there's about 24, 25 teams, I think. And the teams that you get to play are going to be from the Weber Davis, from Salt Lake County, from Utah County. And the second part is the Southern Utah teams are coming in. So the teams that we traditionally see, Snow Canyon, Desert Hills, Dixie, they are sanctioned. They'll be sanctioned next year. So it opens that whole field up quite a bit, which we love because that means we actually get to go to warm schools to play preseason, and we hope, and we haven't seen the schedule yet, but it also gives us a chance to play some of those other teams that we know we can be competitive with, but we really haven't got them on our schedule. The only one that we were happy about not coming into 4A was Park City, and they were supposed to be 4A, but they decided to stay 5A for lacrosse, and I gave their coach a hug and said, that's awesome, because I don't want to have to go through the 5A state champion, the two-time 5A state champion. And that's something that's kind of cool this year. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but Corner Canyon was a repeat, Park City was a repeat, and we were a repeat. So that kind of was special for us, too, because I have so much respect for those coaches and those programs, and to be a part of that kind of winning tradition, it means a lot to us, too.
So it's a bunch of dynasties basically forming in high school lacrosse.
That's what we're hoping for, yeah.
You had touched on this earlier, but I just want to close with this too. But just building it up as a sport, it starts at the youth level.
Correct.
Right? And getting younger kids involved and engaged. And I've seen several different photo galleries, and we've sent photographers out to cover some of these games. And during halftime, we see like the kids are doing a little
4 and 5 year olds
game out there. That's awesome. So I want to ask Peyton and Connors, when did you guys first get introduced to it, and what would you say to younger kids who may be contemplating maybe lacrosse as a sport, and just what it takes to get to this level where you can be a champion?
I started lacrosse to condition for another sport to start out, and I just fell in love with it after a couple of years. I've played since like 5th grade. When it was really small, we had to get players from, Salt Lake to come play with us. And now I look at our JV team, and Troy's done a great job of just including everybody, new players that are just picking up a stick for the first time to people that have played for a long time. It's just been a great environment to have all those players that it's kind of a judge-free zone that, will help you learn, will help you get to that level that you want to get to if you're willing to work with us. And I just think it's awesome that these players can all come together and improve their game in such an awesome sport.
I'm a little bit different than Peyton. I didn't start playing lacrosse till my freshman year, actually. So Troy's my only coach I've ever had. So I don't know as much about the youth programs, but I mean, coming in as a freshman, never playing before, all of our coaches were really just inclusive and so helpful. Like, I didn't know anything about lacrosse. I played basketball growing up, never even heard of it until Peyton actually got me playing lacrosse. But all of our coaches just from the very beginning were so helpful, helping me with anything I needed, just giving me gear, advice, going and practicing with me. But yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things about lacrosse. And we're seeing it in the Valley even more and more where, we're all competing against each other, but there's a lot of sharing of all kinds of stuff. Like, we share film without even a question. Like, we just get our butts handed to us by Skyview, and here comes the film. Here's what we did, and so you can kind of break it down. Same thing, state championship. We sent them our state championship film from last year where we beat them. And just the coaches and the community. We have a lot of great parents too. I mean, the dedication of the parents has just been crazy. Very supportive, and it's funny from a coach's perspective. And I was talking to a couple of the football and basketball coaches at Green Canyon and other places. They've had some tough years, and when that happens, you get a lot of voices out there, and parents and community members. And I said, one of the nice things about lacrosse is most of these parents have never even played the sport, right? They just come and watch their sons play, and they cheer on them. And we really encourage this. Look, I'm going to make huge mistakes. Your kid will make huge mistakes. And I want you to treat us coaches like you want us to treat the players when they make mistakes. And everybody buys into it, right? And if there's an issue, we bring it up, we talk about it. But we've had tremendous support from the parents. Very rarely do we ever get a lot of blowback. I mean, somebody say, well, yeah, we're winning, right? But I think we're winning because we have that kind of a community, and we have that kind of support.
Yeah. Well, and you weren't winning in the beginning, so
yeah,
that's where you managed to turn it around. You don't.
That's correct. And as far as I know, nobody asked for my head. So,
so it's that patience that pays off. 'Cause eventually, the winning does come for you guys. So, very thankful we could have you guys on. Green Canyon lacrosse head coach Troy Oldham and their players, two of their leading players, Conner Dockery, Peyton Johnson. Thank you so much for coming on. Really glad we could have you on and have a nice chat.
Thank you. We love coming anytime. We appreciate it.
Congratulations once again. That's awesome.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back after this on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.